Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome to the podcast Gabriel Tapper and Rasmus Booberg from Gosta Berlings Saga. The new Gosta record, Forever Now, is out today on Pelagic Records. The guys talk about how they each joined the band, the trials of trying to find their scene, coming up with the themes for album titles and songs, the commitment to not using backing tracks, and a lot more. This was a super fun chat to have, and I dig Forever Now a lot. So make sure you find the link to the record in the show notes and give it a spin. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of As the Story Grows. If you're a brand new listener to the podcast, welcome. Thanks for checking us out. You can find links in the show notes or at asthestorygrows.com for our podcast mailing list, our Discord server, and our Patreon page where you can support the show financially and get early access to every episode. Enjoy today's conversation with Gabe and Rasmus from Gosta Berlings Saga.
So you're in like a rehearsal space or a studio or something, it looks like. You're a drummer.
Yeah, it's just my office. Yeah, I got a drum kit, guitars, bass guitars. There's keyboards on the floor and all sorts of nonsense.
Nice.
I can make a lot of noise. So
That's good.
how are things for you guys today? How are things over in Sweden?
It's fine.
Well,
It's
yeah, good. Pretty good weather. Like cold as shit still. Work, I'm actually in the middle of moving as well. I'm dealing with handyman and all that. So the brain is pretty fuzzy at this point during the day. But otherwise, fine.
playing our first show this Saturday. Last time we played was like a year ago or something. So it's pretty exciting. We've been rehearsing quite a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Get back up. How have things been for the band and I guess just in Sweden, like post lockdown for the music scene? Are things kind of back to normal or was there like a massive shift that happened?
I would say that, you probably know that Sweden tackled the pandemic a bit different than other countries. We were quite open, but with that said, there weren't really any gigs to attend, obviously. So the music scene kind of died. So, for our band, we kind of, during those years, we focused on just recording and rehearsing, etc. But regarding the actual kind of live situation of gigs, I would say that it's quite back to normal actually right now.
Yeah, I remember there would being sort of this rush of like as soon as sort of the first season where it was officially over, this entire lockdown thing. I remember we had almost a hard time finding gigs because everyone was just fully booked. All the venues. We don't have many in Stockholm, but the ones we have are all sort of fully booked. That seems to have calmed down now a bit, I think. And that sort of everyone was so happy going to the first shows after that. I can't believe we haven't done this for like 2 years. But it's pretty much business as usual now, I think.
Well, speaking of music, what got each of you into music and kind of just wanting to play instruments?
I can't begin, I guess. I come from a family pretty. We have that. My mom was a sort of painter and a theater person. My dad played. I still plays in a band, in a sort of rock band that had some success, sort of in the 80s, early 90s, and was sort of this gigging musician until he basically stopped it to spend more time with us. Me and my brother were maybe 3 and 5 or something when he stopped actually playing. But so growing up like that, like we always had instruments in the house. My dad had a music studio, like basically until my parents separated in my teenage. I was 14 maybe. Basically, yeah, growing up and having a studio in your apartment was always really close by. So one day I started just playing guitar. He'll let me borrow. He's got like a pre-CBS Fender Stratocaster, and I was just noodling around a bit with it. And then he saw it, like, okay, I'm gonna get you a guitar. From there, like, completely stuck. Yeah. I mean, started playing drums almost the same time. Just like, this is actually really fun. Started a couple of bands. One I played drums, one I played guitar. And yeah, full throttle.
Nice.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I think actually it was in my teens when I discovered hardcore punk, I would say. Discovering bands like Refused and those kind of bands here in Sweden were really massive back then. So it was really connected to that whole scene of hardcore punk and straight edge hardcore. So I started out screaming for a band. Turned out that wasn't really my thing. So position for a bass player appeared. A classic position. No one wants to play bass, back in those days. So yeah, and then I just stuck with the bass. Basically, moved on musically.
Yeah. I know neither of you guys are like original members of the band, but Gabe, you're the older of the two members here. Like, how'd you get connected with the band and start playing?
Actually, the drummer Alex, we had some common friends, and he also basically comes from that same background around Swedish hardcore punk. But I knew that, I saw him sport a Genesis pin once, so I knew that he kind of was into other music than Sick of It All and that kind of stuff, which was really fun to see. And he knew that I was into that kind of music as well. So basically, he called me one day and said that, hey, me and David, we have been jamming for a few years solely on drums and organ, and we kind of feel that we need to expand the palette musically and try out the bass player. And I was like, yeah, let's go for it. And this was 20 years ago this year, actually. They started out in 2000 and I joined in 2004 or 5, I think, something like that. And that's where we took the name Gosta Berlings Saga around that time as well.
Yeah, I assume the name is inspired by the book.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah. Rasmus, how'd you end up joining the band then? 2017?
Yeah, sounds about right. That was the first time since I started playing when I was maybe 13. Always had at least like 2 bands constantly. And then, so that year, the year before, I'd been playing in a band for a long time called New Keepers of the Water Towers. The drummer in that band started this band called, was with him and a bunch of people started this band called Viagra Boys. And I joined them and played with them for a year. But then, like, my friend there, Tor, the drummer, when him and his girlfriend got pregnant, and he decided, like, he didn't really have time for New Keepers of the Water Towers anymore. The Viagra Boys was just lifting off really quickly, and at that time I also got kicked out of Viagra Boys. So all of a sudden I didn't have a band anymore for the first time in more than 20 years, I guess. So I was feeling a bit shit, and right around like the next week or something after, basically I got kicked out of a band and my other band that imploded. I saw Gosta Berlings Saga parted ways with their guitarist, and I've been listening to them for maybe 10 years at that point, or not quite, but almost. loved the band. Like been to almost every Stockholm show. So I just basically, without any hopes, sent a message saying like, yeah, you should totally hire me. Listening to your music, I would be a good fit. And then I didn't get an answer for like almost a year, I think. but you guys, so the other guy started playing with Henrik Palm a bit, which is a guy I know tangentially. And I think he like recommended me, or if you guys asked him, like, have you heard of this guy, Rasmus? Can't say exactly from the band's perspective.
No, that was exactly the way it was. I mean, we asked Henke, do you know this guy? And he totally recommended you and said, yeah, he will do the job, and he's a great guitar player. So, by his recommendation, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Nice.
I think it worked out. We felt, in the beginning, I was really nervous because I was like, this is really like one of my favorite bands. I don't ruin the band. To myself, like if I end up playing with these guys, like just don't ruin the band. You're gonna have to work. But pretty quickly, for me at least, it felt like we were getting along really nicely. Everyone in the band is just an awesome person, and we had so many of the same sort of similar references, and felt really nice pretty quickly. Felt like I knew these guys for years already.
Nice. The band released a couple records since Rasmus has been in the band, but how has the writing process evolved over the years, especially as technology has changed and made it easier to be in different locations? And you're still seem like very much a band that's built on the jam principle, the being in the room and creating in that sort of way.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, back in the early days, I think we were very much a rehearsing band. I mean, we basically rehearsed all the songs to an extent that we knew them very well before actually going into recording. Starting off recording them in our own studio together with people, going on to entering other kind of studios, but always really well rehearsed. I would say that it was probably around the time when Rasmus joined that changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. We had, the album Et X was the album when Rasmus joined the band. That was quite a weird album in many ways because it was both musically and how we recorded it, actually, because we were in the middle of Henrik Palm, which you mentioned earlier. He plays on some of the songs, and then he kind of left the band, and Rasmus came in, and also drummer Alex wasn't really active with him in the band during that time due to personal reasons. So we were kind of in a weird place personally back then. And I remember Rasmus coming in there and really kind of saving that record in many aspects together with Fagge, who was the producer of that album, who really kind of made that album work, I would say, given that it's really scattered or something.
Yeah, so when I came into the picture, you had two songs that were basically like the Henrik Palm tracks, finished solid sort of rock, prog rock songs, and then you had like it's a finished. This is the music. You presented it a bit like these are the songs. This is going to become the album, but it was just like really scattered music with drum machines and like no real structures. It was just like some sequencers, drum machines. And then just barely like any melodies or anything. So I remember like that was the sort of trial for joining the band. I guess I got sent a couple of songs, and I guess just I don't know what you guys said. Like do what you want with them. Like so I went to my own studio and just started like recording stuff, trying to come up with melodies and like build I think I like started cutting them up a bit and like structuring them like, oh, okay, so then I'll add this sort of chorus here, and I add a bunch of stuff to create dynamics. Recorded a bunch of like clarinets and synthesizers and things. But it's, I think that was probably. I mean, I wasn't there for the first half of the project, but I think from everything I've heard and seen, that was really sort of one extreme of that, like not jammed at all, just like ideas you basically record, and then the first recording of them is the album. And then we get we do that's been a pattern, like the next album after that we recorded almost completely live, like full band at the same time, concrete musik. We rented a studio and got a couple of producers, and then just rehearsed and put down the songs, as they were supposed to be from the sort of first basically to last beat.
Basically during a weekend. I mean, it was a really fast album as well at Concrete Music. And then, of course, we worked with kind of overdubs for a few weeks as well. But it was quite a fast album, actually. So and then this last album, which is also, I guess, in some way another end of the spectrum, where it's like both these kind of factors combined in one way. I mean, we've been working with this album for 5 years, more or less. Both kind of really, really rehearsing stuff, and also kind of the other end of the spectrum, just ideas thrown into the mix, and just so it's kind of a mix of both those worlds, I would say.
Yeah, that's been a lot of discussions about this, like the process, and we think like, okay, we think we figured out the perfect process now. Like, okay, so you write the song, and then you have a demo stage, because it's easy to like add the building blocks when you have it like just basically drum machines and just like parts. You make wide strokes with a brush, and then we rehearse, and then we feel out the song. So we actually write it together in the room and like feel it, how it's sounding together as a band, and then we do a sort of a proper recording, or perhaps a sort of demo version of it, so we then can track it in a nice studio and stuff. So we've been, almost every song has been a new trying out a new sort of concept, a new method.
Yeah, and it's
we never found the right one.
Yeah. It's completely different ways to approach music. I mean, I was in a band 20 years ago, and like we practiced in a shed and rehearsed the shit out of like our 6 songs, and I'll never forget how to play them on guitar. Meanwhile, I wrote a song a month ago, recorded the whole thing on my computer. I'll never know how to play it again.
No, exactly.
It's like that riff lives there and only there. You guys kind of live within this space that is like prog rock, classic rock, instrumental music. Has it been a challenge at times to find your scene or place in a music scene?
Yeah, I mean, in one way, yes. In another way, I don't think so. I mean, we quite early on we got this kind of prog rock stamp upon us, I would say, and I mean, that made sense, I would say, for at least the first album, which is kind of quite rooted in like Swedish progressive rock. But I think already from the second album, I do think that there are a lot of different elements that are not progressive rock. And that has just continued, I would say, with adding more electronics, more kind of jazzy stuff, more flavors from all kinds of different genres, basically. But we've also been on labels that is quite connected to progressive rock. So now with the latest album being released on Pelagic Records, I do think that kind of audience is not as rooted within progressive rock as maybe our earlier albums or labels, I mean. So yeah, we'll see if that will imply any changes. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I have seen sort of a shift with more sort of rockers coming to our shows. I don't know if that's really really what I'm seeing, or if it's like that's the way that the prog scene sort of look at this point. They dress they are indistinguishable from the sort of heavy metal dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's Swedish pretty hard. We especially Stockholm is not known. Well, it's rather infamous for its concert scenes. People don't go to shows so much. I mean, we have, of course, like arena shows and stuff that fill up, but the sort of the mid-tier and sort of underground music scenes are really thin. Everyone, because I think that's also the case. Like everyone plays in a band, so it's like, why? Yeah. It's in the end, it's mostly bands going to each other's shows.
But I do think that I mean the kind of festivals or kind of shows we played the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years at least, has not been connected to prog rock at all. Basically, I mean, we played Roadburn, we played a lot of kind of classic rock clubs in Sweden.
Sabbath.
Which is more like a stoner festival or something.
And now we're playing Krökbacken, a Swedish festival, also like a stoner fuzz.
Yeah, and this Saturday we're playing at it's called Vråljazz in Swedish, that's a roaring jazz festival or something, which is not at all progressive rock. So I think that's really fun that we kind of we can play in different kind of environments.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that. I saw that's more of the angle I would like us to have a more sort of go hang with that crowd a little bit. So because that's more, I listen to a lot to a couple of the bands we're going to play with this weekend. Tonbruket has been my absolute favorite for a while. Not so much into the psychedelic stoner doom anymore. Also, I've been there, done that a bit. So for me, like this new thing with more like a bit higher ceilings, a bit more fancy. To me, it feels more fancy. It feels nice to be in a new environment. And then playing a rock festival, then it's like, okay, now it's very safe, but also like it would be nice to try new stuff.
New album's called Forever Now. When you're putting together a record, what is the thought process behind, album title and song titles and kind of theming an album, especially as an instrumental band where you're not drawing upon lyrics to guide you?
Yeah, I can answer that one. For this album, actually, we had working titles for most of the songs until quite late. And then we started thinking that during these 5 years, there has been some tough times. I mean, both the pandemic and both in our personal lives, stuff happening. And kind of thought about the music that it doesn't really show up in a kind of, I don't know, depressive way in the music. It's not really dark in that sense. It's more like quite hopeful and quite glorious at times. So the kind of Forever Now title is more kind of focused on how music can make you be in the moment, so to speak, to be in a kind of eternal space in the current. That's where music can put you, I think. One of few kind of art forms that really can do that, at least for me and for many people I know, that you can really transcend when it comes to great melodies and kind of great music. It can put you in places where you never have been, basically.
Yeah.
And I think the titles on the album kind of reflects that as well.
That's cool. How does the artwork relate?
the artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the artwork on this one is done by a friend of us called Ragnar Persson, who's a great artist. And I would say that, I mean, it's really connected to that whole kind of fantasy world in one way, where you end up when you're kind of, your imaginations just float in the same way they can do it in music, I guess. Yeah.
And I got a pretty faithful rendition of My Dog. I wanna think it is. And also I got one track that I got to name Dog Years, because I got this one basically when we started recording this album, or basically started writing it. I've had her for 5.5 years now. Nice. So it feels like, yeah, that's this whole chapter in my life. It's been like, oh yeah, it's remembering. Yeah, that's stuff that happened before the Dog Years. That's like another era. And then, because just a lot of shit has happened. Pandemic. We a lot of us lost family members. I stopped working and started studying, like many like sort of big transitional events. And then,
album's out June 6th. You got a couple of festivals coming up. What's your hope for the rest of this year? Is it to try to leave Sweden? Is it, what's your plan or hope?
Well, we've discussed it a lot. Right now, I don't think we have any. I mean, we don't have anything solidly booked, as far as I know, outside of Scandinavia, basically. But that's been something we've been.
Pelagic Fest.
Is that confirmed and everything?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's more about who's going to be available, I guess. Yeah, and that's nice. We very rarely leave sort of Scandinavia and Denmark. But it's something we want to do. It's just like life is a thick mess, and then booking because then it's not really, especially like if you want to cross the pond, so to say. Then we have to that's gonna be that year's vacation, and the families might not be so impressed, so enthusiastic, finding out we're going over there.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your take on it, Gabby?
No, I mean, what we want to do this year is, I guess, do shows around this album. I mean, that would be great fun, I think. And the further we can get from Sweden, the more fun it is. But yes, as Rasmus said, it's always, I mean, it's a lot of things that needs to click for it to happen, so to speak. Yeah, and we're all full-time workers, full-time employees at steady jobs. So
yeah.
It's logistics,
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we don't have huge. If we would have a huge sort of crowd pulling us to Italy, then of course, then it would be a bit easier. As it is right now, I think it would be also sort of a lot of heavy lifting from our side. Still, or we'll see. I mean, we always have a lot of sort of enthusiastic people, just not enough to sort of finance things.
Yeah.
Enough followers to be happy and proud, but not enough to actually go for long distances and still pay rent, basically.
Yeah. Have you noticed, whether it's being on Pelagic or like the rise of how people discover music via YouTube or Spotify or Bandcamp, whatever, like has helped extend the reach a little bit, even if it's just on the fringes?
Actually, we talked about this the other day, and one thing we have noticed that it's so much harder to kind of come through with your kind of music these days. One of us digged up some statistics on how much music that is actually published to Spotify, and just these 5 years since we released our last album, I mean, the growth rate is kind of exponential like this. There's so much music being released. So to kind of stand out in all of that, that's a real challenge, I think. No matter how much you work with social media and you send emails and you do whatever you can, I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that sphere. I think it was 2023, it was 120,000 new songs on Spotify every day. It's like, yeah, today we released 14 songs. So let's see who finds those.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. Maybe that I think it's significant. It shows how important it is at this sort of period in time to actually get out there and play. Is my takeaway from that. And sort of show yourself. You can't really it's not going to be like, oh, this band has 10,000 new hits on Instagram and everyone's going to hear about it. Which I know for me it's a bit free. I've never been a social media guy, so I've never sort of taken my intel from those sort of platforms. So I haven't really noticed this. And I didn't really believe it when our drummer told me about it's so flooded now, it's increased so fast. And I was like, no, are you serious? And then he showed me the data, and apparently that's so. But I think shows, we got to play more shows. We've always been a bit. It's also fucking we have this band and we have so much rehearsing these new songs. It's like we use I don't know how many synthesizers now to manage to sort of produce all these sounds. Gabriel plays bass synthesizer with his feet. David has got 3 synthesizers plus the Rhodes piano, and both the drummers have trigger pads and synthesizers. I play synthesizer plus guitar, and then it's feels like everyone is just turning into monkeys and lugging all that around, preparing for a show. It's so much rehearsal, sort of so much brain power needed. It's exhausting, but it's super fun, of course, but also exhausting. And we need to lug all that stuff to make a proper show. So
there's so much muscle power as well to
carry
all that around.
Carrying that Rhodes every time. It's it's just it would be really nice to be imagine being a 3-piece. Just a drummer, he brings his own cymbals and sticks, and then a bass and a guitar. I don't think that's what's stopping us, but it's just it's just exhausting.
Yeah. Do you like the challenge of trying to pull it off live and play all the synthesizers along with the other instruments, or have you ever been I don't know, could we just play with backing tracks on a laptop?
No, honestly, I think that's a huge driving force behind the band. It's a lot of fun, sort of pushing the envelope, trying to do new things and really challenge ourselves every time.
Yeah, and I think that we actually never compromise on that part for good and worse. I mean, for example, I play this small xylophone for 8 seconds per show, and we bring it to every damn show. For example.